Welcome to this meeting of the Oklahoma Aerospace and Aeronautics Commission, October 9, 2024. The meeting notice was posted according to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act. This meeting will come to order. Please call the roll.
First Congressional District Commissioner Seth Phillips.
Here.
Second Congressional District Commissioner Secretary Kevin Potter. Third Congressional District Commissioner Chairman Charles Ortega.
Here.
Fourth Congressional District Commissioner Lindy Ritz.
Here.
Fifth Congressional District Commissioner Vice Chair Blake Rainey.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jim Putnam. At-large Commissioner Jerry Hunter.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Next agenda is the approval of the minutes. The draft of the minutes of the September 16, 2024 Commission meeting has been sent to you, and a copy is in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes before we consider them for approval? Okay, seeing none, I will accept a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Chairman Ortega.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. First up is item 4, introduction of new staff member. Director Arties, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, good morning. It's always a favorite topic of mine to introduce to you a new staff member, and I know some of you may have met her at the last meeting, which I was unable to attend. But formally going to introduce Miss Katie Stachowicz with our engineering position, which we know is a tough one to find. And we'd like to welcome her to the engineering role alongside Ben. And Katie, I know you're getting adjusted to aviation engineering here in Oklahoma. She has a long geotechnical engineering background, as you see from her resume, and is as she rejoins the workforce. And Katie, my favorite time is to invite you to come up and say a few words.
Good morning, Chairman Ortega and Commissioners. I'm just thrilled for this opportunity. My background, I've got a bachelor's in geological engineering from the Colorado School of Mines and a master's in civil engineering from Tulane. And as Director Artie said, I've got a background in geotechnical engineering, and I took some years off to raise my kids. And I'm just thrilled to be back, and I love working with this whole team. So thank you for this opportunity.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're taking her from in the ground to up in the air, as you might say. But still, geotechnical engineering is a very, very valuable commodity when it comes to the engineering that we do, because that's the foundation that we put all of our pavement and our buildings and our fuel systems on all across the state. So I'll stand for any questions.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item, number 5, financial report. Chris, you are recognized, sir.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Starting out with the financial summary, as of September 30th, the department, had an ending cash balance of $24.5 million, with encumbrances totaling $17.7 million, leaves us with an unencumbered cash balance of about $6.7 million. Estimated statutory revenue for the remainder of this fiscal year is $18.4 million, and outstanding reimbursements that are owed to the agency totals $2 million. The total amount of remaining expenditures that could be incurred this fiscal year is $32.3 million, with the bulk of that, about $24.7 million, being airport construction projects, provided that those are presented and approved by the Commission. That would leave us with an expected available cash balance after encumbrances and the expected income of negative 5.2. As I've mentioned in the past, we obviously will never go in the negative, but it shows that we are fully using the funds that we've received. And total fiscal year-to-date expenditures were $4.6 million as of the end of September. And just for a comparison, the same time frame last year, expenditures were $1.5 million. So Clarissa and Michelle have been quite busy the past few months processing payments. Moving on to revenue, total statutory revenue collected for the month of July was $448,000. August was $111,000, and September was $403,000. And that number will vary a little different than what you have in your packet there. The Tax Commission posted the full revenue about 10:30 yesterday morning, so these are the full numbers. Total statutory revenue collected through September is just over $991,000, compares to about $2 million for the same time frame last year. So revenue is down about 51% compared to last year. Finally, for the 3-year average comparison, the revenue collected from the registration fees, excise tax, fuel tax, and license plates is currently about $425,000 less than what our 3-year average is. And if you remember in the past, last year we were always up every month, but now that that COVID year fell off, we've changed that trajectory. That I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Any questions? Seeing none? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Item number 6, legislative, congressional, regulatory update. Director Arties, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of items I want to visit about here. First and foremost is obviously the congressional budget. We're got a CR through middle of December, and so we know, obviously, given the election season, we really don't know where the full year appropriation is going to go. Is it going to be kicked to the next Congress? Is it going to be addressed in the lame duck? Obviously, it's important for us in the infrastructure funding and investment world to ensure that we have a full year appropriation starting the fiscal year so we can get grants out the door as soon as possible to take advantage of our construction season. However, we also understand the politics and the situations that are occurring in D.C. And so we're hopeful that something can happen in the lame duck and we may be able to get some grants out the door starting in March and April as opposed to midsummer. But we will just have to see how that goes. I also had the opportunity to participate in a state legislative interim study regarding the Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority at the bequest of Chairman John Hast and Chairwoman Nicole Miller. They did a joint study between the Senate and the House to talk about potential of bringing OSIDA into ODAA and under our umbrella. And I was there just simply to provide the art of the possible and how that could look and answer questions as needed. So had an opportunity to present our history, the art of the possible, and then obviously answered some questions of the committee members and other members that were in attendance. And that concludes my legislative congressional regulatory update.
Any questions? I have one, Director, if you don't mind.
Certainly.
If just hypothetically they were to roll that in, or OSDI would be OS, what would that do for our commission? What would it do for?
Well, my favorite answer to that question is the answer I used a lot in the interim study, and is we'll do what the legislature tells us to do. And I think that's all in how the bill is crafted. You know, there could be anything from nothing happens to this commission's expanded by a couple of members, and we bring over some space members. We talked about keeping their board as like a space advisory board that would obviously report up to you as the commission, the governing body of the agency. So it's really just kind of the art of the possible as to what ends up in the language that the legislature acts on if they act on it. So I think there's multiple different flight paths that could be taken there, but I don't see this body changing any unless it's a expansion. Maybe, you know, obviously we've only got 2 extra chairs at this table, so if they decide to go more than 2, then we're going to have some logistical conversations. But anyway, those are some of the topics of conversation at the interim study. Is essentially it's whatever the legislature sees fit. But I don't see a whole lot changing with this body outside of the potential for expansion.
Very good. So it's just kind of an exploratory thing right now.
Yeah. We're still in the sausage making process.
Right. Very good. Any questions, comments? None. Okay.
What would the standardization airport hangar fire suppression? Do you know much on that?
That's we'll talk about that here at the next item. But yes.
Okay. Segue into that.
All right.
Item
Segue
number
right.
7.
Item
Go
7.
right ahead, sir.
So if you'll remember, this was on our legislative agenda for last year, and We just did not get to the frame of reference of being able to draft and develop a bill. Just there was a lot of legislative items on our plate, and in some conversations with lawmakers and with you all, we decided to, even though you had approved those items, decided to kick those down the road for another year. And here we are, looking to reauthorize those items. The standardization for the airport hangar fire suppression requirements, I think you've heard me reference a couple of times that some communities interpret the fire codes one way, some communities interpret the fire codes a different way. And so there's some communities that are very pro hangar growth, and there are some communities that are adamantly against the hangars being put in without fire suppression. And so it's just kind of, we were talking about with our OAOA friends and partners about how could we maybe try and standardize this across the state. And maybe that doesn't need to be a statutory language. Maybe that's just an advisory or a memo. But still want to receive authorization from you all to be able to move forward with that. But essentially just, we know there's certain size of hangars that require no fire suppression. There's a certain size of hangars that require sprinkle. And then there's obviously a certain type of hangar that require to be foam suppressed, and so just trying to ensure that we have that standardization and making sure that when a pilot is going from large community A to maybe small community B, that they're going to experience the same fire suppression standards across that route.
Why? Foam's corrosive. You will destroy every plane in the hangar. You might as well burn them all.
I have said the same things.
It raises the costs of hangar space. It increases the cost to our customers.
Yep, I have said the same thing. In fact, I know there are communities that have had to go down the path of putting foam in hangars, and they have had problems getting insurance for those hangars because obviously accidental foam discharges, and so it's
I
a
encountered that with City of Oklahoma City, a 40,000 square foot hangar,
Right.
200 by 200. If I'd gone 1 square foot over, they wanted foam.
right.
And there's no damn way I'm putting foam into a hangar that's going to destroy every plane in it if it accidentally goes off.
Right. And I think you'll hear from our consultants in any of the airports. We try to do our best to avoid foam at all possible costs because of those reasons.
Do we not have any authority to establish the standard for communities like City of Oklahoma City so that they get foam completely off of their agenda?
Well, that's all part of the conversation. The codes are adopted. They're uniform codes that are adopted across the country, and as cities adopt these codes for their building standards, that's where the foam, sprinkle, or none of the above requirements come into play. And so that's what we're hoping to do, is maybe try and figure out a way
Provide
to
them some
standardize
guidance
this.
or something.
Yeah, and that's all part of the discussion that we're going to have this fall and this winter leading up to next legislative session, is what is the potential that we could do to help solve some of those challenges? Because it is, I mean, foam, you look at a hangar, I think it was Elk City, if I remember right. It was a 15,000 square foot hangar, bid it with foam as an alternate. And I think the base price was $2 million and foam was $1.4 million at all. So, I mean, it was almost double the price of the hangar to add a foam suppression system to it versus sprinkle, which was just a couple extra. I think it was only $150,000 extra. So it's certainly something that's a concern for us, given our investment in hangars, and I know a concern for the industry's growth, given how we're trying to make this our state's #1 industry and encourage hangar growth throughout the airport system in Oklahoma.
Well, the
Director,
foam
would-
demand is an anti-growth policy. That hangar would have been a 400 by 200, but for that.
But for that, yeah.
What's going on in other states that we think we could emulate?
So there have been these conversations going on in other states. That's one of the things we learned at NASEO back in September is the, I will say that there used to be some clarity in some of the regulations, and I think some of the more recent updates have provided a little bit more ambiguity, maybe allowed a little more flexibility, but it caused things to get a little more gray. And so some states are also trying to tackle this challenge of creating a system. I've talked to 2 states specifically that ran into the insurance requirement problem that I just mentioned. They had hangars in their states that had to have foam installed based upon fire code, and they either could not get insurance requirements in their policy riders as a city, or the policies were so outrageously expensive that they chose not to go down that path. So it's certainly an issue.
Will these talks also include what's needed in terms of like firewall for the spacing from one hangar to another?
Spacing's another challenge.
Because you have to make like that 2 or 3 hour firewall where they triple up sheetrock and all that kind of fun stuff. Okay.
Yep, and that's part of the conversation, because we run into that challenge as well. That, you know, a lot of our hangars across the state, you look, you know, you have the minimum 15 or 10 foot separation, and you know, now that would require a 2 or 3 hour firewall,
Yeah.
Which is not nearly as expensive as sprinkle or foam, but still is a cost increase for some of our hangars across the state. So it's all part of the conversation we're gonna have.
Copy that.
And then similar conversation in item B, standardization of our fuel system installation requirements. We have run into some challenges just based on various interpretations with fuel systems being installed, now that obviously we are installing fuel systems across the state in the airports. And one of the things we've run into, and we've had an early conversation with our Corporation Commission friends about how could we maybe create a state standard for aviation fuel systems, because right now everything's being driven by traditional fuel system standard installation tanks over the entirety of fuel system installation. And for example, we've had to put bollards, which are the protection bollards, when the only possible collision of opportunity was a lawnmower. But because a lawnmower was considered a vehicle, that was the reason why we had to go install those bollards. Again, that was another probably $40,000 to $80,000, depending on how big the fuel system is, increase to those prices. And so trying to figure out a way to economically install these systems while also ensuring we have common sense safety protocols put in place for those fuel systems. We had same problems with fencing. If an airport already has a fence, sometimes we've had certain regulators say, well, you have to have a separate fence just for the fuel system. And obviously that significantly impacts the operational possibilities of the fuel system, but also then how do you refuel the fuel system from a truck? That can sometimes be a problem. So that's A and B. Like I said, we had that approved by you all last year. Did not move forward with that based on some conversation we had with the legislature. We've had some of those conversations over the summer. Hopefully we'll get some language or at least a conversation going this fall, this winter, to figure out how we can move forward with some of these processes to standardize our vertical development in the state. Item C is new aerospace industry incentives. We've been talking with several different industry partners throughout Oklahoma about some new potential incentives to help spur more aerospace industry growth. Two main areas. There's a SCIF. So a SCIF facility is a secured facility where secret or top secret level work has to occur. And obviously, if you can imagine building a SCIF facility compared to a standard commercial building, it's a 2 to 3 times more expensive facility based on the DoD requirements. Obviously, a lot of our small and medium-sized companies around the state want to do DoD work, and they would want to do work on top secret or secret programs requiring SCIFs, and so they've asked us to look at the possibility of an incentive surrounding SCIF development. The other aerospace industry incentive we've had discussions with is the CMMC, or the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, and that is a new requirement being put on companies that they have to, if they have a DoD contractor, they're going to do business with the DoD, they have to go through a certification process to ensure that their cybersecurity protocols are good enough. And obviously, for a Boeing or a Northrop or a Spirit or one of the large companies, that's no problem. That's just a couple of pennies on the old accounting firm. But for a small company that may only have 15 people, they're being held to that exact same standard. And so that's a, $100,000 initial certification plus a multi-tens of thousands of dollars annual maintenance cost to ensure they keep that certification. And so one of the things we've been talking about is if Oklahoma can figure out a way to incentivize CMMC compliance, that would allow us overall as a state and our friends at the Department of Commerce to utilize that to recruit new companies that would bid on DoD contracts to Oklahoma and do work in Oklahoma. So those are the two industry incentives that we're having conversations about and visiting with our lawmakers on. D is the D is the 5-year airport construction program. That surrounds, as you know, our 5-year construction program is in our administrative code. We've been asked by several folks, why is your 5-year airport construction program, the requirements to develop that, not in state statute in Title III, Section 85 in our powers and duties clause? And so that's a pretty easy cleanup. We're going to go insert the requirements to develop that 5-year ACP, much like how ODOT has their 8-year construction work program in statute, basically ensuring that we're going to have a good capital planning process that we have to follow moving forward. And then last item is emerging aviation technology and advanced air mobility integration initiatives. Excuse me. I know some of you have seen the announcement we released with the Advanced Air Mobility Strategic Plan for the state, and we're looking to probably get a few of the items in that policy recommendation piece, continuing on what we passed last year, some of the changes to Title III, talking about vertiports, talking about protection of vertiports, talking about how do we integrate this technology, how do communities develop new technologies like radar sites and communication sites as we look to integrate this across the airspace. And so those are the five main items that we're considering for our legislative agenda, and staff recommends approval for moving forward with this slate as a potential.
Any questions? No. I have one, Director, if you'll entertain the question. And you said items A and B were previously considered and that they were approved.
Correct.
I believe that was previous to the last.
Yeah, it would have been
session.
around this same time last year when we go to get your approval.
Was there language proposed?
We never proposed language. We merely just started having some of the conversations
Okay.
with legislative staff.
And so right now, this is just a conversation you're
Yep.
having on, okay.
Correct.
Okay, very good, thank you. No further questions. Do I have a motion to approve item number 7?
Move approval.
Okay. Have a second? A second? Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. On to item number 8, National Association of State Aviation Officials Annual Convention Report and Annual Dues. Director Artis, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So myself and 3 members of the team, Nick, Michelle, and Paula, attended the NASAO conference in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this year. As I had mentioned in the previous item, we'd had several conversations about different challenges that states are having. I will also say that you should be proud that your state is the envy of many states out there with our educational programming, with our investment in vertical infrastructure and hangars and fuel systems and terminal buildings. We certainly rose to the top in many categories, and I know myself and Nick and Michelle and Paula were constantly being asked throughout the few days that we were there, how can we help take what you've done and bring it back to our home state? And obviously, we know one of the greatest forms of flattery is imitation, and we are certainly helping other states. I know Paula's still getting calls to come talk to states about our aero education program and how can other states take our initiative. Had several opportunities for conversation, talked on aero education, talked on advanced air mobility. I did give up a very high-paying role of volunteering for my regional director status. And so the gentleman from New Mexico is going to be the regional director for NASAO. I'd served in that capacity for, I think, 3 years running now, and it was time to give up that gavel and turn it over to someone else in the region. They have been recruiting me to try and join the ranks of the executive committee. I don't know that I am there yet. It's a big time commitment for volunteer duties, but I certainly want Oklahoma to be represented well, and will continue to do so. One thing that they tried to do this year, I think they're going to continue doing, and I would encourage any of you that is interested, but they had some sessions on governing board, either airport governing board or state agency governing board education, kind of like a continuing education opportunity. And we had several. We had a couple of commissioners from South Carolina. Obviously, Pennsylvania had several there. Several other states had, and so I would encourage you, if you are interested in that, we will give you plenty of heads up for next year's event. It will be in Alaska, by the way. And if you'd like to go, a couple of you, we certainly would encourage that. I think they're going to have another, we'll call it commissioner or governing board member educational opportunity. And then obviously this agenda item also is for considering approving our dues for $11,750 for continuing a membership with NASAO. And I'll stand for any questions.
Who is the FAA, the regional administrator lead this time?
Let's see, who is the regional administrator lead? It's Central Region's turn, and that
Joe
is...
Miniacci?
Yeah, Joe Miniacci. Yep,
Okay.
yep. So I can't remember if he took it with him from Great Lakes when he moved from Great Lakes to Central,
Yeah.
or if it was just his turn in Central to have it, because they rotate from the various
Chris Blauman
regions.
had it way back, but
Right,
okay,
right.
just wondering.
Any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item number 8?
Move for approval.
Second?
Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Motion passes. Next item, number 9, Airport Construction Grant Program Consent Docket. Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. For this first item, as part of our grant approvals, we are seeking approval for a grant at Enid Woodring Airport, and this is for taxi lane construction to open up their development area. This is just over a $1.3 million project that will be partnered with $850,000 of FAA funding, and the department share on that would be $426,542.50. We started putting those on there thanks to Michelle keeping us down to the penny. So just know that those grants are being tracked very well as we move forward. And with this project, Keston Cook, the airport manager, is currently seeking an airport operations officer. So he's a one-man show up there right now and couldn't break out to come down and give his thanks for the support in the past and for future projects as well. But certainly this is something that's very important to them as they continue to expand and fill up the areas that exist so that they can continue their great expansion and growth there at the Enid Woodring Regional Airport. The second project is at Watonga Regional Airport. This is one that we've talked about before. This would be to construct a partial parallel taxiway and an apron on the west side of the airport. Again, looking to expand on the west side due to the east side being too close to a state highway to really meet current FAA standards. And so this is just over a $1.5 million project cost for this. That will also be partnered with some FAA funds to the tune of $776,230. And the department's share of this project at $683,741. And I know that we have the airport manager, Jenna, is here. So Jenna, if you'd like to come up and say a few things.
Good morning. I just want to say thank you for all of your previous support and for the support on this grant. This is the westward expansion that we've been talking about for many years now. This is going to give us the opportunity to build a new terminal and some hangars for the city of Watonga and for individuals to be able to build hangars. So we are very excited about this. It's been a long time coming.
Thanks, Jenna. And the last project as part of this item, this will be a Jet A fuel system installation for the William R. Pogue Airport in Sand Springs as part of our fuel program. And this will be a $563,124 project with some change. The department share of that, $281,562 as part of our 50/50 fuel program there. And I know that we also have Ken Madison from Sand Springs.
Appreciate you considering the grant for our Jet A system. We've been without Jet A for a while, but we certainly thank you for considering this. And also would like to thank you for our recent project where we had LED lights installed, and they're up and operational right now. But we appreciate your past support and also for the consideration for funding the Jet A system.
Is this self-serve?
No, we will probably get a truck also.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll
Cool.
get a 3,000-gallon truck. So.
Cool. Sand Springs is a good little airport. It deserves some love. So
Well, thank
it's,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it
I'm
very
excited
much.
for
So,
this.
thank you all.
Thanks a lot. And with that, staff recommends approval, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item number 9?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 10, airport project consultant approval consent docket.
Thank you,
Please
Mr. Chairman.
continue.
Appreciate it. And so for this item, we are seeking to enter into task order agreement contracts with several different consultants for projects that we are acting, excuse me, that we're acting as agent upon, or acting as agent for. The first being the Clinton Sherman Airport, acting on agent for OSIDA. And this is, both of these contracts will be funded with their prep funds that have been allocated to OSIDA. The first is to update a property map, terminal area plan, and the airport layout drawing. With the airport layout drawing, basically, as we continue to move forward and utilizing FAA funding that they are now eligible for, we need to make sure that those documents are up to date so that we don't run into any issues with those projects that we were looking to pursue in the future not being on that long-term plan that the FAA requires to have on hand. And so as they update that, go through the parcels and all those types of things, Parco will complete that contract, if approved, at $142,500. And the second contract there is we seek to build a terminal building out there for OSIDA at the Clinton Sherman Airport. We are seeking $33,500 for the conceptual design of the terminal building that will get us up to the point where we are ready to enter into the architectural design. So the layout of that facility, where it's going to be located, basically will be included in this first portion of the conceptual design. And that will be Garver that will be completing that contract, if approved. The second contract we're seeking approval for is a part of our agent role on behalf of City of Atoka, as we continue to seek to relocate their airport from the Hamstrung current location over to the new area that the city has gone through the siting process and selected. This is for the initial environmental assessment as well as the land appraisal, both of which will be required to get FAA on board with this long term. And the total cost of that contract would be $169,900. And again, this would be through appropriated funds that were allocated to the airport this past legislative session. The third contract would be for the city of Duncan. And this is to move forward with determining a pavement section design as we seek to strengthen their runway and taxiway out there. And so this contract will be to really discover what the best path forward for strengthening those pavements at the Halliburton Field Airport. And this would be a $29,000 contract, again with appropriated state funds. And the last contract we're seeking approval is for on behalf of the city of Pawhuska at Pawhuska Municipal Airport, as they are looking to do a property survey for the land acquisition that will be required for the runway construction as we look to move that runway westward, the geotechnical investigation, and as well as the final design of the runway construction. And the total project cost for that would be $264,000, and also with the appropriated state funds from the previous fiscal year. And staff recommends approval, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions on item number 10? And if not, do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval?
Second.
Second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Young. Item number 11, Progressing Rural Economic Prosperity Fund Project. Director Artie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll recall, earlier this year, we had discussed the PrEP Fund Commercial Air Service Development Program funding that we received in the fall of 2022. $4 million from the legislature for helping get new direct flights, new nonstop flights to our commercial airports in the state of Oklahoma. We provided, you all approved $2 million for the Tulsa Airport. And now Oklahoma City has put a grant application before us. I believe it should be sitting on the dais up there in your packets or underneath your packets. Oklahoma City has 5 airport destinations that they're trying to go for, and as I'd mentioned last time, we are giving them the breadth of saying, hey, we want these 5 destinations. I don't think we're going to get all 5 with the $2 million, but we're going to try and go forward and get at least one. If we can get more, great. As you can see on the list there on the agenda, the 5 main communities that we're trying to go to are San Francisco, San Diego, Washington Dulles, Boston, or an international destination in Mexico. Oklahoma City is requesting $2 million. They have committed $500,000 of their matching funds to the project. And this will be a partnership between the Oklahoma City Economic Alliance and the Oklahoma City, or excuse me, the OKC Will Rogers International Airport. And I believe we have Jeff Mulder, the director of the airport, here to visit about that a little bit.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Mulder, OKC Airports.
Good morning, Kenton Soodle, President of the Alliance for Economic Development of Oklahoma City.
Grayson did a nice job of summarizing our request that's in front of you. And the Economic Alliance is important for us. The way these agreements work is that airports can use these agreements, minimum revenue guarantees. Essentially, it's like an insurance policy that a new carrier starts service, and if they suffer a loss, they can use this fund to help replenish their losses. But the FAA also doesn't allow airports to directly fund these kinds of efforts. So that's where you have the state of Oklahoma coming in, and then the local partner that we have is the Economic Alliance. So the way this would work is, as Grayson mentioned, the 5 target areas that we have. If we're able to bring an air carrier to Oklahoma City and we're able to offer this, is that there would be essentially a tri-party agreement between the state of Oklahoma, the Economic Alliance, and the airline. So they could then use these resources to help them start the service here in Oklahoma City. So that's kind of the relationship and how that would go. As far as the details and how much, at this point in time, we're in conversations with several carriers on these routes. Nothing has developed as a formal proposal at this point in time. This is kind of the first step in that, in getting the application approved, hopefully by all of you, and then would be able to then move forward and offer this as we recruit air service. So thank you.
Thank you.
Staff recommends approval, and I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
Would
Any
this be
questions?
prioritized? I mean, I know we probably will not get all of them, but how would that work?
I guess, yeah. Jeff, what is your priority, 1 to 5?
Sure. Well, one of the projects that is one of our priorities this year is we're developing a customs facility at the terminal building in Oklahoma City. So certainly international air service is one of our focused areas. We have ongoing conversations, though, with carriers on these other markets. So at this point in time, we're talking to everybody, and we'll see what happens and what rises to the top. But certainly, what's changed the game for us is this opportunity now. The customs facility that we're building will be complete by January of '25, so it'll be available and for use for carriers to bring international airline flights into Oklahoma City. So that's certainly a target area for us, but these other markets are also of interest. So we'll kind of see how it plays out.
Any further questions? No? Do I have a motion to approve? Item number 11,
So moved.
Second.
second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter,
Okay, motion passes. On to item number 12, Progressing Rural Economic Prosperity Fund Update. Director Artis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll talk a little bit about the other prep fund projects. You've seen us out in the field doing some groundbreakings and some other celebrations throughout the state of Oklahoma. We had the Woodward, which we'll talk about that here in a future item, but Woodward projects, their first round of prep projects is underway. That's the terminal, the hangar, the taxi lane, the utilities, and access to that development area. Ardmore's parallel taxiway, their first phase is getting close to wrapping up and being finished. And they are in the final stages of design on the last piece of their project for air cargo, which is the roadway, utilities, and parking lot for the cargo facility. Oklahoma City OKC Will Rogers, that's gonna be a tough one to get out of the habit on. OKC Will Rogers International Airport. If you've taken a flight lately, you'll see, I believe, a big hole as you're going into the airport there. That big hole is the foundation for that 3-bay 737 hangar that we're building for AAR. Tulsa's tower is under construction. Had a nice groundbreaking for that. We'll talk about that here in a minute. And then, of course, a lot of our hangars are out there in various stages of under construction. A couple have been completed, and then obviously still a few more to finish design and be bid out. So good things happening, getting this money out there in the ground across the state of Oklahoma, and hopefully eventually in 2 to 3 years, will be completely done and under service throughout the state, whether it's hangars, towers, air cargo facilities, or other activities for the airport system of our state. But certainly exciting times. I think 2025, we best break out the shovels and the scissors because we will have quite a few groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings to attend. So thank you to the legislature, thank you to our communities for investing as they have invested, and we're making some big changes to our aviation system across the state. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, sir. On to item 13, Unmanned Aircraft Systems Contract Award.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've reported on this item several times, I think probably here in the last 12 to 18 months, that we have been going through on behalf of OSIDA in the Clinton Sherman Airport an RFP process through OMES related to installation of radar and other airspace management services for BVLOS operations. BVLOS is the key term being tossed around the unmanned aircraft systems industry right now. That's beyond visual line of sight operations. As the pilots in the room know, the key vanguard of the FARs right now is when you're flying an aircraft, you can look out the windscreen and you see and avoid. Obviously, with an unmanned aircraft, there is no pilot on board that can go out there and see and avoid. That's the key concept we're trying to achieve. And so at the end of the day, the FAA and others, industry members, other states, other communities, have developed ways to be able to get around the see and avoid concept. And one of those is to ensure that we have radar coverage of the area where a drone is going to be operating to be able to sense and avoid, not see and avoid, but sense and avoid non-participating aircraft within that area. Obviously, participating aircraft being those aircraft that have ADS-B, we know where those aircraft are. When the ADS-B is on, we know where they are. But of course, we know that there's a large chunk of airspace throughout the country where you don't have to have ADS-B and you can still fly and operate. And of course, many of those areas are low-lying, low-level areas where UAS, particularly testing of UAS, is occurring today. And so we have to supplement ADS-B with radar infrastructure to make sure that we can have a successful BVLOS operation to receive that approval from the FAA that we have met the safety case standard to do BVLOS. And who we're trying to do this for in western Oklahoma is Kratos. Kratos, obviously, as you know, manufactures a couple of their drones here in Oklahoma City, and they would love to do testing. One of the reasons why they moved to Oklahoma was to be able to do testing nearby their manufacturing facility. They currently do testing out there at the Burns Flat facility at the Clinton Sherman Airport, but they are required to have a chase plane. So the chase plane is seeing and avoiding. They're the eyes for the drone right now, and we're hoping, because that chase plane is expensive, it can be cumbersome, doesn't allow them to do the operations that they want to do. We're hoping to be able to revise that and do away with the chase plane and input this BV loss system. So myself and Chris and Doug and Craig from OSIDA have spent the better part of the last almost 12 months going through the finishing touches of the RFP process, doing interviews, grading score sheets, and you name it. We have come to the highest ranked vendor, being Vigilant Aerospace Systems, Inc. In phase one of this project, which will help get a racetrack, excuse me, help get a racetrack in the sky, essentially, put in for their fire jet. And that's the first one. That's the small one. It's going to be the proving ground opportunity, and that cost is going to be a little over $1.6 million, funded with the state funds that we have received from the legislature for UAS infrastructure investment, as well as funds from OSIDA that they've received for UAS infrastructure investment. This is exciting. It's exciting times. This is a new era for our agency, for our state. I was just in Tulsa the last couple of days at a innovation conference where the topic was much to discuss advanced air mobility and integration and potential for how UAS can play with the rural economy of Oklahoma, delivering needed medical supplies, making transportation easier and more efficient, providing retail access for many people that normally don't have the abilities today, or they have to get in their car and drive many miles to be able to do it. And so it's pretty exciting. But anyway, today's action is entering into a contract with Vigilant for $1.618 million to do this phase one project. And I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions on item 13? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
I second.
Second. Motion to approve in a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Chairman Ortega,
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 14, Aerospace Aviation Education Program update. I didn't know you were here. I couldn't see you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. As always, I'm thrilled to be here to share the work we've been doing in aerospace and aviation education. On September 17th, we met with the AOPA team about the probability of bringing the summer teacher training back to Oklahoma again for the 4th year in a row, and we will do that. But prior to meeting with AOPA, I called Whitney Alvis, the Dean of Workforce Development at Rose State College, and I said, Whitney, would you entertain the idea of hosting the teacher training this summer for AOPA, for our Oklahoma teachers? And she said, no, I wouldn't entertain it. We want to do it. We're thrilled to do it. And so we'll be hosting June 9 through 12 at Rose State in their new Tannenbaum aerospace and cybersecurity facility. They've graciously allowed us to use nearly the whole bottom floor of the building, as well as some of the upstairs classrooms. It's a beautiful facility, and it's perfect for our needs. And we went to Rose State and met with the food service folks and the event folks, and it was a very positive meeting. And I'm really excited. A location right there across from Tinker. We're looking at some possibilities of doing some activities with the teachers at Tinker as well. Secondly, on September 19th, Doug Wood and I were able to go with 2 Bartlesville teachers, one from Bartlesville High School, the other from Tri-County Tech, that's also in Bartlesville, up to Pittsburgh, Kansas, to Pittsco Education. Pittsco Education is one of the companies that a lot of our schools do business with. Quite frankly, it's probably the first STEM education company and has been around for years. They've always been so supportive of our work. They asked those two Bartlesville teachers to field test, to beta test their new drone kit. And so we took the two teachers to Pittsco, went through a day of training with them on how to test the new drones. Then those teachers were allowed or given the drones to take back to Bartlesville to their classrooms to go through that with the students and then be able to report back to Pittsco. It will go on the market in February, I believe. So it's fun to be a part of a process, a new process of a product that will probably be very important to our schools. On the way home from Kansas and Bartlesville, I did go on September 20th to meet with two representatives from Tulsa Public Schools and the STEAM Catapult Foundation there in Tulsa. Very positive meeting. I want to get our foot further in the door in Tulsa Public Schools. And so it was a positive meeting, and I'm hopeful to be able to work with them again and perhaps get it on their pre-enrollment schedule in some of their high schools moving forward, hopefully as soon as next fall. D, you see a beautiful picture there in front of you. Many of you know last year we had Oklahoma Student Aero Day in Tulsa. We had far over 1,000 students in attendance at Oklahoma Student Aero Day. We quickly realized that we would need to move forward and perhaps break it off into regions. We started this year with two different days. This is Southern Oklahoma Aero Day, Student Aero Day, those schools south of I-40 that are AOPA high schools, and they met in Ada. The President Godwin greeted them, Director Arties greeted them, and then you'll recognize probably Captain John Kilty, who was sort of the keynote, but more than that, the cheerleader, shared his passion for flight, pardon me, with students. And then they did 3 rotations. It was really fun. They went to the Ada Regional Airport, and they not only talked to the commemorative aircraft fellows, but then they also had booths in a big hangar and were able to talk to secondary entities and industry representatives. And then the other rotation was to Ada High School, where they heard the OU air traffic control students speak to them about air traffic control. Lots of really good interaction that day. It was more than just a field trip. It had some layers, and I was really pleased with how it turned out. Just under 400 students there in Ada that day. We already have the Northern Oklahoma Aero Day set for April in Enid. And so we'll take the north of I-40 schools, and we'll meet there. And then yesterday, Stephanie and I were in Chickasha and Anadarko Public Schools, had 2 really positive meetings with them about moving forward with AOPA. I think it's a good possibility that will happen, so we're continuing our work as we continue to add to our number, as the director said, many states wondering, how is this working? So it's been very exciting.
Very good. Any comments, questions?
Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moves on to item 15, Aerospace Education Classroom Lab Grant updates.
Yes, you may recall in March, you voted to approve the recommendations we made for 6 school districts that had applied for our first ever Classroom Laboratory Improvement grant. And so we awarded those 6, and those districts have been working diligently to implement the grant as was requested to us. The first I would report on just briefly is Ada City Schools, and you'll see they're in the middle of the process here. To begin with, it was 2 portable classrooms. They removed the walls between the 2 classrooms. They're putting in 2 garage doors. They are putting in LED lighting, insulation. They are going to use that, which is directly close adjacent to their aviation classroom and lab. This will be where they'll start building their Tango flight plane beginning next August, school year 2025-26. And so the work that they're doing is to get that room ready. The airport is too far away from the school to be able to move the kids back and forth efficiently to find a place to build. So this will allow them to be on campus right there, building that airplane beginning the next school year. The next school is Bartlesville. Bartlesville has an old classroom, and let me emphasize 1939 old, okay? And right next to it, a choir room. Can you, those of you that remember what choir rooms look like with those riser type steps? So they worked on the old classroom as well as the choir room. They redid the riser steps to make them be able to accommodate their simulators and build a simulation lab. Notice they've named the classrooms, they call it the hangar. You can't see underneath it, but it says many thanks to the Oklahoma Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics for the assistance. The teacher was one of the ones that we took to Pittsco Education in Kansas, and while we were there, she said, on the way home, can you please come by? Can you come see the work that you've done for us and for the kids of Bartlesville High School? So it's very rewarding. It's very fulfilling to me to see them take what we give them and put it to use in such a positive way, in my belief. And next, this is Newcastle Racers. Newcastle Racers, I don't think we have a picture, I wish we did, of their beautiful room. It is a huge laboratory. They got new shelving that you can sort of see for some of their equipment, an additional simulator. They, I believe, painted, did some cleanup, and I'm not sure what this room had served as before, but it is a stellar room for kids to be able to really learn and put the curriculum into practice. So really pleased about Newcastle. This is Rose State College. Rose State has taken over an old Middale elementary school and has put aviation learning labs in there. And what I appreciate about them is that they're reaching out to Oklahoma City public schools like Star Spence, some of the schools that are close and feeder schools to Rose State, to allow them to come in and do some AOPA learning in their laboratories there at Rose State. It's not actually on campus, it's at this old elementary building that they have redone, some new chairs, some new tables. If you'd seen it before, you would realize how much more of a true learning space it is now. And then next is Wyandotte. Wyandotte the district bought an old grocery store across from the school and has turned the grocery store into an aviation lab. And Wyandotte is a very small community in northeastern Oklahoma. 3/4 of their student enrollment takes aviation as a class, and they are committed. Everywhere we go, they take those kids for every opportunity. We are appreciative to Wyandotte. It's a very nice, clean learning space with new lab tables, so we're excited about that. I think that's all. Atoka Public Schools is also working. They have ordered some new cabinetry and are working to get their room up to speed and ready for learning. So,
Very good.
thank you.
Any questions, comments? None? Okay. Moving on to item number 16, Aerospace Education Classroom Grant Program Consent Docket. Stephanie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. We have 12 school districts that staff is recommending for this first round of this academic year classroom laboratory improvement grants. And we have representatives, I believe, from all 12 schools who are going to come and share a little bit about their plans for their classroom improvements and enhancements this year. So first up is Altus. Is Lana Mowdy here?
Go Bulldogs.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Lana Mowdy from Altus Public Schools. We'd like to thank you for the opportunity to upgrade the aviation lab at Altus High School. The Altus High School aviation program serves students in 9th through 12th grade using the AOPA curriculum to teach students the technology of flying manned and unmanned aircraft systems. We have the opportunity to significantly enhance the program with increased simulator access so we can provide more students with hands-on learning opportunities, training students to gain proficiency in aircraft types, operations, and flight conditions. We also have several other grants that we're using to supplement in order to get some wind tunnels and other equipment that is necessary. Thank you.
Very good.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mowdy. Next up, we have Bridge Creek High School, represented by Adam Carr, the teacher.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to do this for Bridge Creek High School. We're committed to creating a wide variety of diversity for our students, diversity in learning. What we really want for our students is that they can jump in at anywhere where they're at. So we're going to be purchasing a online cloud-based simulator through STEM Pilot that will allow students to access a high-quality Flight X simulator through the cloud on any device. This will allow us to use it at both the middle school and the high school in a variety of classrooms, but we're also using the grant to buy a larger a simulator in the classroom so that students can get the full experience of using the yoke and using the joysticks and pedals to experience flight. We also want students to be able to learn about the background of aviation across all the different components that it takes through experimentation and documenting weather. And so we're buying some tools that allow us to do labs with anemometers, temperature readings, and two-way radios so that we can communicate and practice those procedures of flight, but also ground control. So I appreciate the opportunities to invest in our school in this direction, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, representing Burns Flat Deal City, we have Anna McCook, our teacher there.
Good morning. Thank you for considering Burns Flat Deal City Schools for this grant. I currently teach the aviation program at Burns Flat Deal City Public Schools, and I use the AOPA curriculum. So my classroom is currently designed for biology and chemistry for small groups. Our AOPA program, aviation program, is taking on a lot more students, and we're only in year 1. So we still have, 4 or 5 more years to build on this program. So we just do not have the space. We currently will be moving to a bigger classroom that's empty, and it is completely a blank slate. So we need everything for that. And as you know, which I'm sure you have heard a lot about AOPA and what it can offer, but for my students in particular, we are right next to the Clinton Sherman Airport, and they have been building a lot of different things, as you guys have approved. So my students are uniquely available to be able to go work there directly. And I think that's great considering it's a small district and they did not know that all of this existed before. But it goes more than just our new classroom for them and myself. So thank you for the consideration.
Thank you.
Next up, representing Durant High School, we have Zach Morgan, our teacher, program director.
Good morning, Chairman Ortega and Commissioners. The one day I needed my voice to hang on, it didn't. My name is Dr. Zachary Morgan. I'm the Director of STEM Education for Durant Schools. I also teach in our aviation curriculum. Specifically, this request will support Phase 1 of a total renovation of the old ag facility. We're converting that to our aviation and STEM lab. It's got classroom space, office space, teacher preparation space, as well as a fully or a partially built out full what was essentially the ag shop. And so I have funding to help this through both Career Tech, as well as with your support through the agency, as well as some internal funds, community funds. There's lots of players in this renovation, and my request specifically to you is to help us implement Tango Flight, partially at my request and partially at the request of one of our large local employers, Aircraft Power Systems, to help us produce both college and career-ready graduates, whether they want to go to flight training or to engineering, straight into the workforce or into an A&P program. Our current technology center, or Kaimichi Tech, doesn't currently have an AMP program, but we're looking at doing some dual credit opportunities with some accredited Part 147 training programs, both in the career tech and the private environments around us. This request is for 2 full tool sets, just under 1,300 pieces per, which includes storage, security, tool accountability, all and the training necessary for those students who are headed in as engineers or as aviation maintenance folks in their future. Durant ISD is committed to becoming a regional leader in aviation STEM education, including partnering with many of our smaller local schools, Calera, Colbert, Silo, some of those schools that don't have the resources that we have in Durant. They've reached out to us, and we're working on developing these partnerships to provide those same opportunities, not just for our students, but for those students in the surrounding area. When I talk to a lot of my STEM director colleagues around the nation, they're envious of the opportunities that I have, and I always say none of this is possible without the folks at ODAA. And so they say, what do I need to do? I said, you get with your legislative body, get with your respective agency at your state level, and find ways to do the great things we're doing here. So I stand for questions. Other than that, I thank the commission.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Next, we have Jenks High School, and our staff is recommending a grant of $38,500 for them, and we will let a representative from Jenks tell us about their plan. If there is one. I was worried about that. I hadn't seen someone. Okay. Go Trojans, yes. Okay, as part of their plan, the short version is they are asking for 4 BATD flight simulators and a wind tunnel to improve their classroom laboratory at Jenks. And so staff has recommended $38,500 for that program. Next up, we have a representative from Kanawha High School, Sean Walker, the high school principal, who's going to tell us about their plans there. And we are recommending for Kanawha, I'm sorry, I'm not telling the amount, $13,500.
Good afternoon or morning, commissioners. Sean Walker, high school principal. I just want to tell you how in we are at Kanawha. When we were writing the grant doing the grant process, it requires sign off and how much the in-kind donation from the school will be. Well, I'm not the superintendent. I signed off and I thought, well, I better call and tell him how much we may be on the hook for. And I was reading the example that's above, and it was like, I don't know, I added it all up. I was doing quick math, and I said, it's going to be about $35,000, Dr. Revis. He said, do it. We're in. We're all in. So we appreciate the funds that you give us, but we want you guys to know that we're right there with it, and we're going to spend. And we're a small school. South Central Oklahoma, we have about 38% of our students involved in the aviation program year one. We have 2 flight simulators. We requested the grant funds for a wind tunnel to test airfoils, rockets, scale models of aircraft, spacecraft, all the other possible things that you can do with the wind tunnel. Also, in getting the previous grant that we received, plus this grant, storage is becoming an issue. I noticed that everybody is moving to bigger spaces. We've already got plans to do that next year. So anyway, we need storage, so that was part of the grant that we wrote, and we appreciate you guys funding or potentially funding this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Next up, we have Oklahoma Baptist University. Staff is recommending a grant of $27,500, and Chuck McCall is here to tell us about their plans.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Chuck Bokel. I'm the Director of Engineering at Oklahoma Baptist University. It's a brand new program. We're in our 2nd year. We have mechanical engineering and electrical engineering with an aviation focus. We started the program primarily for 2 reasons. It was the most requested degree that we did not already have, and secondly, really strong demand from employers, many of whom are at Tinker Air Force Base. So on our advisory board, we have Boeing, Northrop Grumman, the Air Force, Kratos Defense, and Ace Thermal Systems, all of whom need more engineers. So one of my fun jobs is when I visit employers, I can help them by getting some new graduates. So our request is for a wind tunnel. We already have the room allocated for it. Right now it's empty, and when I bring prospective students through, I say this is where it's going to be, and now I can say it's going to be here soon. The timing is excellent for us because all of our engineering students are required to take a course in aerodynamics, which will be next fall, and the wind tunnel takes about 6 months to get it, so the timing fits really well. So besides using for labs, we're really excited about using it for recruiting because lots of interest in this area for aviation. We are literally across the street from Shawnee Airport, and we are also partners with Gordon Cooper Technology Center, which has a main campus only a few miles from us, but also has a campus right at the airport. So again, right across the street from us. So we intend to bring lots of high school students to see the wind tunnel and use it as appropriate. So we hope you'll approve our request.
All right, next up we have Perry High School. I believe Amanda Wilson is here to tell about the plans for Perry. We are recommending $22,900.
Good morning. My name is Amanda Wilson, and I'm the STEM director for Perry Public Schools. I'm here on behalf of our aviation instructor. We are in year one of our program, and I would say it was both a blessing and a curse. We started with a blank slate in our old junior high building that's right next to our high school. It was wonderful to not have to clean anything out, get rid of whatever was in there, but it's also a very large blank space and we have nothing. So in our grant request, we are asking for a large makerspace table. We have already found, just in the little bit of time that we've gotten that class going, our students need large workspaces for the projects they're doing through the AOPA curriculum, which has been just incredible. We are also asking for a wind tunnel, a desktop Redbird simulator. We have an excellent partnership with our small but mighty airport in Perry. The airport manager, Terrence Hewlett, has just been incredible with getting our program going and making sure that our students have all of the opportunities that they could have. He had a donation of an old simulator, and when I say old, early 2000s. And it's been okay, but it's not keeping up. It shuts down quite often, so our students would be absolutely thrilled to have a new simulator. And then also a charging cabinet. We were lucky enough to be approved this summer for a grant through the commission, and that provided drones for our students, and we need a good place to charge those drones and all the batteries that they take up. So we appreciate this opportunity and everything that you're doing. Paula and Stephanie have been incredible, so thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Next up, we're going to hear from Denise Hensley about their program growth there. And Putnam City Aviation Academy staff is recommending a $40,000 classroom improvement grant there.
Good morning. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our program. We have got moved out to Wiley Post. So we have created, this is our third year. So we're at Wiley Post Airport. We're on the second floor of the FAA building. And so we have a 10,000 square foot facility there, and I invite all of you to come and see it. I would love to show every one of you what we're doing. We have 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon. So we're an academy that focuses on flight and maintenance. For the last 2 weekends, we've put through 14 kids who have got flying hours up with Discovery Flight and Young Eagle flights. We also have kids doing Civil Air Patrol flights. One of my teachers is a pilot, and so I stole him from Mustang, and I proudly say that. He is going to help our kids with our ground school stuff. I'm partnering with a ground school there at Wiley Post to get our kids, that's anywhere from $11,000 to $15,000 for them to be able to get their private pilot. So we've got a lot of kids really interested in that, and a lot of kids doing maintenance. We're offering 107 drone certifications. We're offering ATEC certifications. We have students who intern at Jet Set. They're on Wiley Post. We have students who intern and these are for money, these are paid internships, at AAR at Will Rogers Airport. So we are doing a lot of things. We have students, last year we had 7 seniors graduate from our first graduating class. All 7 of them are in aviation of some sort. So we are turning out a workforce for Oklahoma. So we ask for this grant for our facilities to get new flooring, to get painted, because when we moved into the FAA building, we could do a little bit as a school. We redid our teachers' offices and that sort of thing, but we needed just to have a better facility. The walls were kind of dingy, the carpet was tragic. And so now our facility will look amazing thanks to this grant, and our kids will walk in and they'll feel that, and it'll look the way their life is fixing to go, because we are all about putting them into a workforce, to college. We're excited about what we're doing. So again, I invite you, please come out and see what we're doing. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Denise. Next up, we have Stillwater High School. Staff is recommending a $20,000 classroom lab improvement grant there, and I believe we have Ashley Miller.
Good morning. I'm Ashley Moore from Stillwater, and I have Mr. Larry Hessler, one of our aviation educators, with me as well. So I'm the director of secondary, and so we have two aviation classrooms and two educators, and our program is in our second year. So our first year was last year at Stillwater, and it has already grown by leaps and bounds, but our classrooms are in two very old classrooms. One is a very, very old building. Actually, I think you heard from what Ms. Keedy was saying, that one of the other, in one of the other schools, the building was in a choir room. One of ours is in an old choir room. And so in one of our other classrooms, I think Mr. Hessler is, we had to take down a partition, and we've had to, it was an old, part of it was in a storage room. So we are asking for, part of the $20,000 is to ask for tables and chairs makers to make it a more of a maker space. We have simulators, because part of the problem is I can write grants and I can get, our education foundation will gladly give for all the shiny things. We can get the shiny things. We can get the simulators, and we have all of those things because people give money for those. But to get the modular tables and the chairs that we're requesting, the electrical jobs to come from the ceiling that we need to do the things, those things are what we're requesting. To get the storage cabinets and chairs, to get the storage cabinet, the tool chests, to store all of the things that we need, those are the things we're requesting. So the lockable for the drones and the drone kits. What am I leaving out, Mr. Hessler? I think that's pretty much what we're requesting. So electrical drops, storage, tool chest. As we're growing our program, it has grown so much over the last year. I think that's it. Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stillwater. Excuse me. Next up, we have, staff is recommending a $10,000 grant to Weatherford High School, and we have Doug Gunselman here to talk about it.
Morning, my name is Doug Gunselman. I'm the curriculum director at Weatherford Public Schools. We're in year 3 of our aviation program, teaching aviation 1, 2, and 3, along with an aviation maintenance class this year. Our high school is maxed out. Weatherford's a growing community, and when our high school was built, it wasn't expecting to have an aviation program. We're currently being housed in a fine arts building, and so we're pressed for space, as a lot of other people have mentioned today. We have actually purchased land for a new high school, and we're about 5 years away from having a new high school. We'll have an amazing STEM and aviation wing, but we're not there yet. So we currently have all of our Aviation 1 students in a large conference room in our fine arts building. And it's a great space, but the space is also used for our testing. For example, we're doing our some pre-ACT testing this week, so our students are actually removed from the classroom this week. And so our proposal is to make our classroom more mobile, where when meetings are taking place and we're having to move somewhere else in the fine arts building, we don't have to leave our supplies. We can take the supplies with us. So we're looking at solving this issue in 2 ways. One is by being more mobile, to move the classroom and our supplies to another functional space. And then second is expansion of our current simulator room to be able to house an entire class instead of half a class. And basically in the fine arts building in the basement, We have an old storage room that has been converted into a simulator room, and there's another storage room on the other side that we would blow out the wall and to be able to expand that into another classroom, basically. So your funds will be used for 2 J-Velocity simulators that would be set on movable tables that can go anywhere within the Fine Arts facility where we currently house our aviation program. And our district will contribute funds for the movable tables and also supply carts as well as the expansion of our simulator room. So it's my hope that this grant, if you approve it, will be able to bridge the gap for us between our limited space now and when we build our new high school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gunselman. Next and final school recommendation is for Wright City High School. Staff is recommending $32,000 improvement grant there. And I believe we have Trish Tuck to tell us about their plans.
My name is Trish Tuck, and I am the aviation teacher at Wright City. We embarked on this journey last year, and it's been an exciting journey. It's not been an easy one, but it has been exciting. We've turned our old classroom into our STEM aviation lab. We've replaced the flooring. We've added a storage cabinet. That's not enough. As everyone else has stated, storage is an issue. So we are requesting for more storage cabinets, tables, with supplies to do the labs that are included with the You Can Fly curriculum. The desks are not enough, so tables will allow our students to keep all of their supplies on the table with the risk of them falling off, spilling, breaking. We can eliminate that. Electrical drops, we need to charge multiple drone batteries instead of just a few at a time or taking them to an additional classroom where we risk drones walking away. So aviation means a lot to our school and our students. That is something that we have started in our part of Oklahoma, which is the southeast corner, that no one else is doing right now. So we're super excited about that. We're drawing in other kids from other schools, and they really like what they see at Wright City. We know STEM is here, and it is growing rapidly by the day. And so we're so proud to be a part of that, and we're so proud that y'all are helping us. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tuck. Staff recommends approval of these classroom lab grants, and I stand for any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve item number 16?
Motion to approve.
Second? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Motion passes. And thank you all for being here today, too. Appreciate it. Okay, we're on to item number 17, sponsorships consent docket. Director Art, as you recognize.
Thank you. Sandra Shelton sends her regards. She was a little under the weather this morning, so I know she's watching, though, online. I don't doubt it, so hopefully I'll do her well. Two sponsorships before you today. First, both for $25,000. First is for Women in Aviation Day, December 6th, 2024. At the 138th Air National Guard in Tulsa. I think you all know of the Women in Aviation Aerospace Day event, alternating back and forth between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. I believe this is the one right before the 10th, right? Next year's 10th? This isn't 10th, right? This is the 8th, okay. So we're excited. This is about the maintainer. We're considering every year we have a theme, and this year is to a shout out to the maintainer and the Rosie the Riveters that started maintaining aircraft and got women into the maintaining business of aircraft during World War II. So look forward to that. Item B is the Aerospace Week. This is our second week that we have. It's going to be March 31st through April 5th. Obviously, you know that our large event during this week is Aero Day at the Capitol. So this is the other large event that we host every single year. We're partnering with the Innovation District with all the other events that are going on throughout the year. Last year, if you'll remember in our debrief, we had multiple events happening every day of the week, including an event on Saturday in the park. And judging by the lineup that they are proposing this year, I think we'll have even more events and even more of a statewide presence throughout the week of other communities throughout Oklahoma doing aerospace activities. So I'll stand for any questions, but staff recommends approval for these two sponsorships.
Move approval.
Second.
Second. Motion to approve in a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Okay, motion passes. Item number 18, review of aerospace conferences and trade shows. Director Arties, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it's been a minute. We had the August education meeting, which we try and leave just for education, and then I was unable to attend the last meeting. So we have a little recouping and recovering and some informational delivery to give to you. First and foremost is EA Oshkosh. You can see a good crowd there. Yours truly in the background. Thank you, Commissioner, for being there and making the delivery possible of several of the folks that are in that picture. You see NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, Kyle Hilbert, John Hayes, Nicole Miller, Paul Racino, and Adam Pugh. Yep, okay. And then, of course, myself, Paula, Caitlin, Sandra, and several others throughout our partnership. A great opportunity throughout the week. Jim Bridenstine was our keynote speaker at the lunch that we moved from Saturday to Friday this year. Had another record breakout number of people attend our lunch. And it was a great opportunity to visit with GA companies about what Oklahoma has to offer. And I know Commissioner Hunter was making a hard sell there at the end, trying to get a company to come to Oklahoma. So thank you for that. Had many folks come by the booth. Obviously, a lot of aviation programs were up there from Ada, and then just running through some of the pictures of some of our friends and partners that were able to come by the booth. Followed that on, timeout. Did not follow that on. Happening the same time was Farnborough International Air Show in London. This is Oklahoma's biggest delegation, almost 100 members, 13 different businesses, 7 different public partners there in attendance. As you can see, Governor Stitt, Lieutenant Governor Pinnell headlined our activities that week, and it was an amazing event to showcase Oklahoma on a larger international stage. We've begged, pleaded that maybe we can get Farnborough and Oshkosh to deconflict, but alas, we can't. 2024, it was the same time frame. In 2026, it'll be the same time frame. I don't think they've scheduled 2028, but it's going to be something we'll have to deal with. But it was a great show, great opportunity for us to plant the flag in the ground and showcase what Oklahoma has to offer for the international presence. And then follow that on with Tinkering to Primes the next week. I had the opportunity to showcase a panel at the end of the week. Obviously, I also introduced our first Women in Aeronautics event there on that Monday night, but had a policy discussion about how can we help policy, or how can policy help the defense and the aerospace industry of Oklahoma lead the way forward. And so as you can see there, we had a significant partnership between the legislature, the Guard, and of course myself to moderate there at Tinkering to Primes. And then last but not least, I'm going to call up Doug and Caitlin because I was not able to attend the Oklahoma Municipal League. I was at the NASEO conference. So Doug, Caitlin, you want to get up and share a little about the OML, which is Sure.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you very much. October 11th and 12th, Caitlin, Sandra, and I attended the Oklahoma Municipal League Conference in Tulsa, held at the Cox Convention Center. If you've not attended, this is basically a trade show and convention for employees of cities and municipalities. And they learn all kinds of new things about how to better run their communities and their cities and their efforts there. Many of the trade show companies that are there are infrastructure type companies, so companies that display the best new fire hydrant or the best new personnel software, or even the best way to clean the community's wastewater treatment plants and lagoons. And so we had a booth there at the, and we had a great location right next to where the cafeteria and food service area was, so everybody had to walk right by us to get there. We had lots of people come by talking about drones. Many of the communities are using those for public safety and for emergency management or for their public works departments to do inspections. And then we have a number that came by and asked questions about doing exactly that and had not yet gotten into it, but provided email contact for follow-ups and things. And then finally, we also had some communities that stopped by and were talking to us on the manned aviation side about the projects that we've done, specifically Ida Bell and Broken Bow stopped by that I remember, and there were some others. So it was all in all a good conference, and had a great time.
Just to reiterate, I can't say that word today, what Doug had to say, but also just always great to connect and network, expand my knowledge of just Oklahoma and what our communities are doing to grow and expand. Like he mentioned, with him being our state drone guy, that was really a topic of conversation for municipalities and just hearing how they are implementing technology with their public works and even saving money and just with safety and changing how they operate and do things. It was super interesting for me to hear how that's affecting just their day-to-day operations. So, thank you.
Very good.
And we'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 19, we're moving on from conferences and trade shows to reviewing our aerospace and events and activity. I mentioned a few of these earlier, but Tulsa Tower groundbreaking had the Lieutenant Governor, Speaker Designate Kyle Hilbert, Chairman John Haste, Mayor Bynum, FAA Administrator Rob Lowe, and a litany of other dignitaries there to break ground on probably what I hope is a once-in-a-lifetime event there at the Tulsa Tower. Not every day that a nine-figure project gets broken ground. You get to break ground on a nine-figure project, and that was really, truly an opportunity and a showcase for what Tulsa was able to do. So great time there, and it's under construction now. Followed that on with the Woodward groundbreaking, September 19th, as I'd mentioned earlier. This was for 4 projects. This is the terminal building. This is the large hangar with office space. This is the taxi lane and access area, and it was the utilities to serve all of these new developments. And a great opportunity there with the folks at Woodward. They really had a good showing. It was, unfortunately, we were thinking it was a Friday, late in September. We were going to get some good weather. It was 100 for the record there, so couldn't escape that Western Oklahoma heat. Girls in Aviation Day, September 21st. This was a great event. I got to give a lot of accolades to your team behind me. Sandra, Caitlin, Paula, Stephanie, Michelle, everybody, Chris, that had a role in setting up for this. This is not an easy lift. This is a true volunteerism lift, and thanks to the Air National Guard that helped us, thanks to all the vendors that helped us, thanks to Atlantic Aviation who opened up their beautiful new hangar for us, and thank you for all the participants that were able to join us that day. We had a litany of opportunities for young girls to get excited about this career field, to showcase some of that enthusiasm, and hopefully, if they haven't already decided to be aviators, change their mind and become aviators. And it was a great day for those that came by, and I know we're going to continue trying to do this in the future. So great opportunity there on September 21st. Follow that up on the Capitol Rotunda, 4th floor Rotunda on September 24th. We had our Advanced Mobility Strategic Plan partnership between us and ODOT, which I know we've talked about in the past, but we finally released that to the public. It was a jam-packed agenda. I think we had 5 different lawmakers, myself, Lieutenant Governor, several members of industry in the community. I think we had like 11 speakers, 11 or 12 speakers, and we had a 30-minute run of show because we had to get to the interim study, which was starting. And I had big money on there was no way we were going to get done in 30 minutes. But lo and behold, we got done in 28 minutes with that crew speaking, every single one of them. So we were certainly patted on the back by every person that attended that we run a speedy and efficient ship here at the department. And thank you to all the people that participated. Thank you for those that came out to support us for that event and that grand announcement for UAS, AAM, and as well Surface Advanced Mobility too. October 1st, we had a divide and conquer. Your team had a divide and conquer that day. First and foremost, I and Caitlin and Michelle went up to Stillwater, and their groundbreaking on their new commercial terminal was occurring that day. Mr. Mayor was there. Congressman Frank Lucas was in attendance. Great opportunity to speak in Stillwater about a really important asset that they're going to need for the next 30, 40, 50 years for commercial air service, which has been really successful since it started in 2016. And of course, I was not there, but Sandra Shelton was at the dedication ceremony for the new Pratt & Whitney facility and was able to sing the national anthem in front of a big crowd. As you can see there, Congressman Cole, Lieutenant Governor Pinnell, Congresswoman Bice, and many entities that were involved in this big project of collaboration amongst Pratt & Whitney and bringing some of their facilities together, but also allowing for some expansion and growth potential there just to the south and west of Tinker Air Force Base. OADI, the Oklahoma Aerospace Defense Innovation Institute, that's OU's, University of Oklahoma's aerospace research program. Had the opportunity, I was not able to go, but I know Sandra was able to go and Commissioner Ritz was able to attend to start kind of their formal introduction of General Rand and the consortium that they are trying to get going there at OU and how they're supporting a lot of the activities within the aerospace and defense network there at OU. And last, but certainly not least, was the Thunderbird Unmanned Drone Festival and the Unmanned Symposium that we hosted within that. Was on Friday the 4th, just this past week. Had a great opportunity. Myself and Sandra and Paula and Stephanie were able to kick this event off, bring together industry and students to hear many different entities, but primarily to hear their own students, some of their own students that are going through this program, speak and what that's meant to them to hopefully inspire the students that were in attendance. Also heard from Lieutenant Governor Pinnell, and of course our keynote speaker, Jim Bridenstine, who's a wonderful speaker and enthusiastic person to get our young folks energized about this career field. This is all about drone and film and photography, and really is a pretty neat program. This is their first year in Tulsa. It had been held for several years in Woodward, and it just came to Tulsa for the first year, and I think they're looking forward to future partnerships as well. And so with that being said, that concludes my review of events and activities, but I'll certainly stand for any questions.
Any questions? If not, on to item 20, review of upcoming aviation and aerospace events.
Good morning, Commissioners. Happy to share a few upcoming events. So first we have the Blue Goose dedication in partnership with the City of Bethany. That's going to be on October 14th. They are going to be placing that at the Eldon Lyon Park. So we're excited to have the Oklahoma Historical Society also partnering with us on that. Tulsa Air and Space is hosting a Warbird weekend with the Commemorative Air Force, October 18th through the 20th. Tulsa Tech is having an Aerospace Career Fair, November 7th. And then we are excited to celebrate the 99's 95th anniversary next month. Yes, November 1st at the Capitol. It's going to be a Friday at 6 p.m., so we definitely extend that invitation to all of you and hope that you'll be able to join us. The Aerospace Forum is going to be Tuesday, November 12th with our partner over at ACES. And then Director Artie's already kind of mentioned this, but just a little bit about what we have planned for this year for the Women in Aviation event. So it's going to be the 8th annual event. So like he mentioned, in 2 years it'll be the 10 year. So we're excited to celebrate that. But one thing that we are working on with our special tribute to maintainers is welcoming Colonel Nicole Malachowski as our keynote, which was the first female Thunderbird. So we're really excited to have her join us, and I think it'll be a really good show. And I think that wraps it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Item number 21, schedule of 2025 Aeronautics Commission meetings. Mr. Chris, you're ready. Recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, before you this morning are the proposed dates for the 2025 regularly scheduled meetings. You will notice one change is we are proposing to move the start time to 9 a.m., give us a little bit more time in the morning based on some feedback we've received from a few of you over the past couple months. We're certainly willing to entertain changes or your suggestions, but these dates are before you for your approval.
Any questions? Any comments? Nothing? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the dates.
Second?
Second. Motion to approve a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 22, Director's Report. Director Hardy, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is some of the other activities and events. Blue Side Up Conference was for the FAA Southwest region. Obviously, this is a little bit of a play on pilot lingo. Obviously, you want to always keep the blue side up. But that was a partnership between us and FAA, state aviation directors in our region, and FAA, just talking amongst ourselves without airports, without consultants in the room, trying to figure out how can we better implement these infrastructure programs for the betterment of the national airspace system. I want to thank Rob Lowe for spearheading that and making sure that we're always welcome within the FAA regional headquarters here in Fort Worth. August 28th, I had the opportunity to go speak to the Weatherford Rotary. Talked about, obviously, what we have going on as an airport system in Oklahoma, but also the cool things that are happening there in Weatherford, and just how the aerospace industry is playing a key role for Western Oklahoma. One of the things that we have attracted in not just the educational realm, but also us as an independent agency, we've got a little bit of interest from other states as to, well, why is it that you're independent, and what benefits does that bring? And New Mexico was one of those. They reached out to us back in the summer and said, hey, we want to get together. And so I had an initial meeting on September 13th with their director and some of their staff to explain how our process works, how our agency works, how we became independent in the history of our agency, and how that's been so successful for us over the many decades that we've been around. September 27th, several of us attended the Norman Chamber Commerce Aviation Breakfast that they have every year before their Saturday event. It was a great opportunity to hear, again, Jim Bridenstine speak. Also on September 27th, we went to McAllister to meet the new Economic Development Director that they had just hired, former Air Force officer, but they're in McAllister, wanted to visit with us and the city manager and our friends at Commerce to figure out how we can help supercharge their airport, invest in their airport, and how they can take advantage of some of the aerospace growth in southeast Oklahoma. And then last but not least was something that was very exciting that just happened here this past Monday. That was our flight safety reception and open house. They have been wanting to support us in our educational realm. As you know, flight safety has several hundred employees at the Broken Bow facility. That's where they manufacture all their big flight simulators. And they had reached out to us back in the summer, reached out to Paula. How can we help better engage with your educational activities? Obviously, these are not the simulators necessarily that are going into the classrooms that you heard about earlier. These are the large full motion level D simulators that they have. But they've got a lot of software engineers, a lot of technologists, a lot of interested people in the aviation sphere, and they want to get engaged. And so they came up with this reception and open house idea on October 7th. Their CEO, Barbara Telek, Lieutenant Governor was there, myself, several lawmakers were in attendance. Had the opportunity to talk about our educational and what we're trying to do. Lots of teachers were there. They're trying to partner better with the school districts and figure out ways that they can help get things together. And of course, we had the announcement that you all know about, that they're going to do a training for how to implement these simulation activities in the classroom a little bit better at the high school level. And probably the most exciting thing of the night, besides myself successfully landing both the A220 and the 737 MAX, I did not, when they threw the one engine IFR, I didn't survive that one. My multi-engine training's a little rusty, so but I did, set me up on approach, landed both airplanes just fine. But astronaut Charlie Precourt, who was in the shuttle commander several missions, was there to speak and talk about his time. He's partnered with Flight Safety on a lot of their safety initiatives, and it was interesting. We were talking about it afterwards. He was the first commander of a shuttle flight that docked with Mir in the post-Cold War era of space relations between us and Russia. And he had talked about his relationship with General Stafford and how they were able to share that connectivity, because he was, General Stafford was the commander of the mission for the Apollo-Soyuz mission, where that connected, where there was that little thawing of the Cold War back in the 70s, where us and the Soviets were able to get together and agree on that space mission. So it was a great opportunity, and I really want to thank Flight Safety for all their work, and I look forward to a continued partnership moving forward. So with that being said, that concludes my director's report. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, we will move on to item 23, proposed executive session to discuss the employment of the executive director pursuant to Title 25, Section 307B1 of the Oklahoma statutes. First, I'll entertain a motion to convene into executive session.
Motion.
Your motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Okay, motion passes. We would at this time like to request that all meeting guests, except for the commissioners, Director Arties, and the agency council, exit the room. We will send someone to the lobby to notify you when we are returning into open session. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to return to open session.
So moved.
Second, I have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Okay, motion passes. At this time, I'll entertain a motion regarding any action subject to the executive session.
I would like to make a motion that we increase salary by 24% with annual reviews no less than every 12 months. We don't go 3 years again, or 2 years, or anything like that.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Okay, motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Aye.
Very good, motion passes. Okay. Item number 24, concluding remarks.
Just want to say extremely grateful for the job I have and the opportunities I get to do for aerospace, aviation, defense every single day. Growing up in this state, being a part of this aviation industry, never thought I would have been here, but here I am. And I just want to say thank you to the opportunity to continue to serve, and comments well noted every year. Wilco, just like I've
You're not gonna absolutely delighted with everything you do.
So I'll note that. So here October again, let it be known.
Yes, do not go 2
Okay.
years, 3, that's, no.
Okay, all right.
Heck no.
Noted, thank you. Other than that, looking forward to a great slate of fall events, and would encourage you or any member of the public to attend any of our events that we have and get more engaged in the aerospace and defense industry for the state of Oklahoma. And that's my concluding remarks.
Very good. Any more comments from the commission? None? Okay, item number 25, announcement of the next meeting. Our next scheduled special meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024, here in the first floor conference room at the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. Item number 26, Director, any new business? None? Very good. Item 27, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second? Motion and a second. Please call roll.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Chairman Ortega?
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz?
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey?
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter?
Motion passes. We are adjourned.